Hello there, it's Gina Gardiner here. Those of you that know me will know that I'm a #1 international best-selling author, that I'm also an empowerment and relationship coach, and that I work strategically with businesses, helping them get the best out of the relationships that they have within the business in order to be more profitable, but also to have better work-life balance. I'm on day 5 of my 30-day challenge. I set myself this challenge a few days ago, following on from a trip to the United States in order to film a 13-part video series, a TV series, which is to underpin the principles, or is underpinned by the principles of the latest book, Thriving Not Surviving, The 5 Secret Pathways to Happiness, Success and Fulfillment. And what I'm trying to do within these videos is to share with you my vision and what I'm trying to achieve. And the big thing, my big goal, is to impact positively on 1 million people within the next 5 years. Now, I can only do that if I actually have the help of people like you. And that's helping to share the videos and also to engage with the process and to ask questions and to raise issues and so on, that I've got something then to actually provide for you that is what you need and what you want, rather than just what I think. Today's theme, which is around relationships, has come up in a number of guises from people who have actually been on previous calls within this challenge, but also it's come up through clients and through conversations I've had in the last 24 hours. And that's the whole issue around relationships. And they're pretty tricky because we have so many relationships in our lives. We have the relationship with our significant other, whoever that might be, with our family, and that's our nuclear family, children, or our parents, or brothers and sisters. It can be aunts and uncles. With our friends, and relationship with our friends aren't always straightforward. The relationships also that we have at work, and the whole issue of how we manage ourselves and manage the behaviours and the language or lack of them from other people as colleagues, as team members, but also if we're a boss, how do we manage our team? How do we manage our clients? How do we manage our stakeholders? At the same time, if you're part of a team, how do you manage your boss? And one of the principles of the Thriving Not Surviving, the 5 Secret Pathways, is really about recognizing that every single relationship that we have in our lives, every single one, is actually a reflection of the relationship that we have with others. Now, it's interesting. Somebody said that they can't actually see me. Could you let me know if that's just Kate or whether that's somebody else? Because it looks as if I've got the camera on. So I don't quite know what to do. Right. Kate, can you see if you've got your camera switched on? Because the camera appears to be working here. It says it's live and it says that the camera is on. So I wonder if it is at your end. Do you think you could have a look and see whether or not you've actually got a line through your camera icon and see if that will actually come on for you? Other than that, I'm not quite sure technically what I can do, because it all appears to be on and the camera's working this end. Can you let me know whether or not that's something that you've tried and it's worked or not worked? In the meantime, I will crack on, but if others of you are having a problem with seeing what's going on, then please let me know. But it appears that my camera is actually working. So my apologies, Kate. I'm not quite sure how to change that. So you are the common denominator in every situation that you take yourself. Oh, great. Thanks, Kate. If you think about every moment of every day, throughout your life, you're the common denominator. You take yourself into every single situation. Thanks, Carol. That's lovely for letting me know that you can see. So I think it might be a problem your end, Kate. So our relationships are a reflection of the relationship that we have with us. So let me explain what I mean. If you feel confident and if you feel good about who you are, then when you go into any sort of conversation or any interaction with other people, you go there with a very different way of being. If you are critical of yourself, if you do not like who you are, if you don't believe that you have value, that you will go into a relationship and you will be expecting that other people will treat you in that way too. Because if you don't believe you have value, then it's hard to expect other people to believe that you have value too. Now, it's not as obvious as that. It's not, that you have a sign on you saying, I don't like myself, I don't care about myself, I don't value myself. But your language, both your verbal language and your body language, will be sending out an energetic message to everybody that you meet. And that energetic message can be, I really can't manage, I'm not very good, don't expect too much of me. Or I'm a confident person, I actually like who I am and I'm in charge of this life that is mine and I expect you to treat me well. And so when people don't treat you well, your response is not that you have to bite back, but simply that you will not accept people treating you badly. You withdraw. You won't go into a relationship where people ignore you or abuse you verbally, emotionally, or physically. You're not going to stay. But if you actually don't believe that you have value, that you don't believe you deserve better, then you are far more likely to allow other people to bully you, to ignore you, to back you in a corner, and to treat you badly. Now, those of you that have known me and have heard me speak before will know that my view is you cannot change other people. Yet we all try to do it. The first flush of a relationship, we think the person's wonderful. There's that great emotional release of hormones, and all of the things that are going to irritate in the future, we ignore because those hormones actually make us think this person's wonderful. And actually the things that I don't like about them, well, I'm going to change those in the future. I'll work on them. It'll be all right. The reality is if that person doesn't want to change, they're not going to. The only person you have power over, the only person who can change that's in your control is you. And so if you're embarking upon a relationship where the person is doing things that you don't like, you have a choice. You have a choice to stay or to change the way in which you react to them. Now, I'm not talking about ignoring it, and nor am I talking about being aggressive or confrontational. But I want to ask yourself, how often do you put up with somebody treating you in a way that makes you feel horrible, and you just let it happen? Or you bite back and you end up with a great big argument? Because those are the two polar opposites, and there's lots of different ways in the way. Thanks, David, for joining us, and for Carol. It's lovely to see you there. I really do appreciate your joining us. If you've got any comments or any questions, then please do share them as we go through the Facebook Live. The way in which you interpret other people's words, actions, or lack of them is going to be determined by the relationship that you have with yourself. So let me give you a couple of examples. If you don't feel good about yourself and somebody is having an off day and doesn't treat you in the way that perhaps that you think that you shouldn't, it's very easy to assume that the motive is actually to upset you, when most of the time they're not trying to upset you, it deliberately, but they're behaving thoughtlessly or mindlessly. They're not actually taking note of what they're saying or how it's landing. They're just doing the best they can, and often that best isn't what you need. Now, You can bite back and be critical, or you can flounce out of the room and bang the door, but it's not going to improve the relationship. So for me, starting with the relationship that you have with yourself, learning to love who you are, and I talk about wobbly bits and all, and those are your physical wobbly bits, and the bits that you're not sure about in terms of the way in which you operate within the world. Understanding that loving yourself is not about being indulgent, that if you love and appreciate who you are, you're going to look after your body, for example, because you've only got one body and it's got to last you the whole lifetime. You're not going to put things into your body that are going to harm it on any great level if you appreciate who you are. Now, does that mean that you have to live on a lettuce leaf and a carrot? No, it doesn't. But it does mean that if you appreciate who you are and that you have a great relationship with yourself, you're not going to take drugs, you're not going to overdrink, and I mean consistently. You might have the odd splurge. You're not going to overeat. You are going to look after who you are because you care about you. In the same way that if you love and appreciate who you are going to take care that you do not put yourself into situations that are toxic. And so many people, it's a really difficult question. How do I learn to love myself? And David's asked, what's the first step in learning to love ourselves as an individual? Is there a set process? Well, there are a number of things that can help. And one of the things is actually to recognize what the relationship that you have actually is like. What is working, and what are the things about you that you have made the decision are not good enough. Because when we step into recognizing that we are enough, that doesn't mean we can't improve upon things, but as we are actually enough. One of the most powerful things you can do is to use an exercise that I learned from a woman called Marissa. Now, it's called the I am enough exercise, strange that. And the story goes that she's a very well-known hypnotherapist who works with the rich and famous, as she will tell you if you go on one of her courses or listen to her videos. She's very good at telling you that she works with the rich and famous and she gets results. And I don't doubt that she gets results. So she was telling this story, and the story was that a TV producer was halfway through producing a 26-program run, and the star of the show was being an absolute pain in the what's-it. And he wanted her to go and speak with him because she was concerned that he was concerned that if this star withdrew at this point, there would be 13 programs which would be wasted at huge cost. And she said, yes, of course I'll go. So his next question was, well, what sort of car do you drive? And she said, well, I drive a Ford. And he said, well, don't turn up in that, because if you turn up in that, he won't see you. Anyway, she made an appointment with this star, and she arrived on his forecourt, and he opened the door. He said, what's that piece of rubbish, though that wasn't his word, doing sitting on my forecourt? And she said, well, it's my car, and I'm here now, so why don't I come in and have a chat with you? And he said, you can't help me. She said, well, I've got a pretty good idea what the problem is. He eventually did invite her in, and as he was talking to her, she was asking him about his childhood. And it turned out that his father was a high-flying lawyer, and he wanted his son to follow in his footsteps. And his son said, no, I want to be an actor. And his father had said to him, if you go off and be an actor, I will disown you. Well, he went off and he became an actor, but his father died before he became successful. And although he'd won Emmys and Oscars and all sorts of things, because this guy was a very well-known person in the film and TV industry, what she said to him is, whatever external accolades you get, it's never going to be enough. And I would ask you, as I'm telling you this story, to think about your own upbringing. There are many people that I meet who constantly are searching for their parents to love them in a way that they feel loved, and yet they don't. And so the message they take from that is not that my parents don't have the wherewithal to show me love in the way that I need it. So the meaning they make of that is, I'm not good enough. And so parents might be critical, or they may be wanting to motivate their children, but in the way in which they manage that, that child takes meaning of, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough. Then you add school, and the teacher may say, you're useless at this, or, you know, you're being stupid. And the child takes on that identity, well, I must be stupid, I've heard it from the teacher. Anyway, to get back to Marissa's story, she took out a red lipstick and she went all the way around this actor's house, putting on the mirror in red lipstick, I am enough. And he had lots of mirrors because he obviously spent a lot of time looking at how he looked. She also put it on his screensaver on the computer. She put it on his phone. And she said to him, every time you go past your mirror or past your, you open your computer and you see the words, I am enough, I want you to repeat them, but I want you to repeat them with real conviction and welly. I am enough. So I heard this and I thought, you know, I've used affirmations with people. I've done a lot of work around helping people feel better about themselves. I'm going to give this a go. And at the time I was running a development group, a personal development group for women. And so I made some very simple posters out of A4 paper, which simply said, I am enough. And I asked them to put them around the house in places where they were going to see them. Those of you that are aware of neural pathways will know that a neural pathway is a nerve pathway that goes through into the brain that's created, which actually allows us to create a pattern of behavior. So if you think about walking across a lawn, the first time you walk across a lawn, you don't see anything. But if you keep walking and walking and walking, you actually create a pathway across the lawn. You wear out the grass and it becomes more and more definite as a pathway. And your brain sets down these neural pathways in very much the same way. But in order to do that, you need to practice something several times a day for at least 28 days. And if you stop, then you have to start again because the neural pathway isn't complete. And I asked these ladies if they would take their posters and put them around the house and several times a day say with welly, I am enough. But I slightly changed the exercise and asked them to say it 3 times. To say, I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. And a month later, exactly 4 weeks to the day, we met, and the words that they used were, it's been transformational. I feel great about myself. I feel more assertive. I've been able to tackle things with my family or my boss that hitherto I have avoided because I didn't feel strong enough. And that was the one exercise I gave them. When I work with clients, I use a variety of things, but in this group, that was their homework for the month. I've now used it with hundreds of people. And if people do it, it has an enormously positive impact. And I also suggest if they've got children that they ask their children to do it, because if you want your child to avoid being bullied, the best way to do that is to give them a great sense of who they are, a great sense of self-worth and confidence. And this exercise works with children. They need to probably be about 6 or 7 before you start it, but it works. Works with teenagers, works with men, women, girls, boys. If you do it, it works. The other thing that I have actually asked and experimented with, asked people to experiment with, is to actually use it if you're a walker or a runner or a cyclist, to actually use it in the rhythm of whichever exercise you're doing. And that seems to actually amplify the impact of it. It works more quickly and it works more deeply. So if you want one simple strategy, I think that that would be the one that I would use, because the results of Marissa Peer's exercise with her actor is a month later he phoned her and said, I'm feeling a lot better. I don't know what it is, but I'm feeling a lot better. And a few months later he phoned her and said, I just want you to know how happy I am. I'm got a new relationship. It's going brilliantly, and that I feel really good about myself. So my challenge to you is try the exercise. If you're interested, on the website, I've commissioned a great artist, Amanda Clow, to do some photographs. There are flowers and there are also landscapes. And if you want to buy a set of those, actually, I'm not sure if they're quite on the website, but if you want to, just message me and I'll make sure you get a link to those as soon as the link is live. But you can simply use red lipstick, but it's an absolute so-and-so to get off mirrors, let me tell you, because I tried it on my own mirror, and it is a pain. Whereas the posters, you can put them up on your wardrobe, behind the loo door, wherever you're going to see them on a regular basis. But the first, and I suppose the most crucial step to actually creating a different relationship with yourself is recognizing that actually you're not broken and you don't need fixing. You can always be even better. You can always enhance who you are. But if you could think back to when you were little, and the trouble is we don't remember, but when you were tiny and you were learning to feed yourself, to walk and to talk, probably until you got to school, you were not concerned about whether you were good enough. You believed you were loved. You believed that you were whole. It's only when external influences started to have their wicked way that you started to doubt yourself. And that doubt then looks for evidence. That belief, that limiting belief, looks for evidence that you aren't enough. And of course, people will say things that can be interpreted as you aren't enough. And they can actually say it, that you aren't good enough. Doesn't make it true. Because they say it doesn't make it true. But if you want to be better, there's always the potential for that. But in and of yourself, you as a person are enough. You're not broken. And if you believe that you deserve to be valued, to be listened to be heard and seen, other people are much more likely to do that. Now, my journey has been one where I have had periods in my life where I did not believe I was enough. All through my teenage years, I'd moved schools 3 times. I didn't fit in. I didn't feel good about myself. And as a result, I overate because that was compensation. So I put on weight. I felt very, very unhappy. Ultimately, I recognized that nobody else was going to make this all right. I needed to do the work on myself. And, I had the help of going on courses, and actually, when I became an NLP master practitioner, a lot of the work, particularly in the practitioner level, was doing work on me and recognizing that I had value just as I was. And that actually was professionally incredibly confident when I was ahead and expected to be listened to. When I put that into the personal context, it was very much less confident, much more shaky, because I wasn't clear about the relationship I had with the personal me. And if you want to be happy in life and you want things to work really well, you need both. You need the professional confidence and the personal confidence. And you're a whole person. You can't really separate that out. And yet, I work with many clients who will be very, very confident in one or other arena, but not both. And it's interesting to me how often people who are highly successful professionally, who have all the accolades and all the trappings of professional success, when you put them into the context of a personal relationship, actually it's a very different story. Or people who are supremely confident personally, but you ask them to go for an interview, or to do to speak in public, or to go for a promotion, they're very diffident because they don't believe they measure up. And of course, you've got to be honest with yourself. If you're talking about work and you don't have the skill set or the potential to develop a skill set, then, it isn't that if you believe you're enough, it means that immediately that you're skilled at everything. That's not what this is about. You don't have to know everything or be everything in order to be enough. You just have to be you. You have to be authentic. You have to be genuinely who you are. Because when you step up to being authentically who you are and owning yourself with all of your frailties and all your foibles, but recognize at the same time that you do have value and that your opinion is good as anybody else's, it's as valid as anybody else's, then things start to change, and they start to change for the better. It's interesting when you look at superheroes. You know, Superman was very, very popular to start with, but his popularity waned. And when he first came out as a comic book character, he didn't have any flaws. And what happened is that people didn't relate to him because he had no vulnerability. And so the writers recognized that, and they actually introduced kryptonite. Not immediately, it was later when they recognized that he would have so much more resonance with people, that they could relate to him if he had frailty, if he was vulnerable. And many of us think that, myself included, and I have to say this has been a huge lesson for me, that letting people in, letting people see you being vulnerable doesn't necessarily mean you're weak. In fact, quite the opposite. That actually there is huge strength in letting people in, seeing you haven't got all the answers, and actually you're feeling pretty grim at the moment. Now, I want to make a differentiation. There's a difference between being, in my view, in being vulnerable and letting people in, and seeing yourself as a victim. Because when you see yourself as a victim, you're dependent upon other people's mood, other people's interaction with you to determine how you feel about yourself. Being vulnerable is about being honest, being authentic. Being a victim means that you are letting other people take responsibility for your emotional well-being. And that means you have to put up with what they give you, and it may not be what you want. All of us, there isn't a person alive who doesn't go through periods in their life when crap happens and when they need help. And, you know, those people who say nothing, or who huff and puff and expect other people to pick up those context clues and then are very disappointed when they don't, are putting themselves into a position where they're not showing vulnerability. They're not being fair, actually, to the other person, because they are expecting other people to mind read. And everybody's busy. Everybody's dealing with their own stuff. And so expecting them to pick up on your needs, I think, is unreasonable. It's much easier to be able to say, I'm in this situation, I'd be really grateful for your help. And if people then turn around and say, actually, I can't help you at the moment, that has to be okay. Making it a huge emotional load and feeling rejected when people say, no, I can't do that, puts you back into victim mode. So you ask for help, but don't have an emotional tie to that help. Yes, there are times when there are people that you feel ought to help you and should be there. And you're probably right. But actually, if they don't feel capable of it, or they do not actually recognize that that's their role, no amount of you feeling bad about it is going to make them any more likely to help you. So you have a double whammy. They haven't provided the help, and you feel bad about the fact that they haven't provided the help. Because generally people will do what they are able to do with the resources that they have available. But we have expectations of ourselves and of others. And when those expectations aren't met, it's all right to actually say to somebody, I had hoped that you would help me. What I'm talking about is the emotional charge that goes with when they don't. Because that emotional charge is something which is very difficult for you to deal with. And it usually, I believe, comes down to a sense of feeling rejected. And I think it's one of the most primeval emotions that we have, that when we ask for something from anybody, and they say no, we have made meaning of that, and that meaning can leave us feeling completely disempowered. So our relationships with ourselves are, hugely important. And there are certain things that I think that can actually help you to recognize what that relationship is like. How do you speak about yourself to other people? What's the internal chatter that goes on in your head? Is that negative and telling you that you're useless, that you don't measure up, that you're not able to do things? Do you get in first in a conversation, say something, oh, I'm useless at that, I can't do that? Or, what you're saying is, don't expect too much of me. And that's because you don't expect enough of you. Now, I'm talking about patterns of language, not the odd one or two, or that, that you have a particular thing that doesn't go well. Those of you that know me well will know that I have a relationship with technology, which is fairly, what's the word I should use? It's very up and down. I mean, I've had the guy in today to work on my Mac yet again because it's gone wrong. Now, is it something I've done? I keep being told, no, it isn't. But my computer knows when I'm stressed and when I've got a tight deadline, and you can guarantee that that's when it goes wrong. When I've got all the time in the world, those very rare times, it doesn't go wrong. But I have no doubt that my frustration in some way energetically has an impact, certainly in terms of my capacity to deal with the computer when it isn't working well. And for a computer, that could be another person. It could be, real irritation and frustration with yourself. So think about the language you use. Think about the voice that goes on in your head. And you'll get a pretty good view of what your relationship with yourself is. How well do you take a compliment? Oh, this old thing, or, oh, no, that's not me. Or do you graciously accept it when somebody says, thank you, that was great, or you look lovely? All of these things in and of themselves is not, doesn't give you the whole answer, but they start to give you a really good indication of whether it's time for you to stop behaving towards yourself in that particular way and start to work on having a better relationship with who you are. Do you look for external validation in order to think that you've done a good job, for example? It's not a good job till 3 people tell me well done. I had a client, that was her measure. When 3 people notice what I've done and tell me it's good, then I know it's good. Actually, it would be more helpful for her to have a view, am I doing a good job in the moment? Because if you're always waiting for other people to tell you whether you're doing a good job, then your sense of what the difference is between okay, good, and excellent obviously isn't clear. So taking responsibility for everything you say, everything you do, the way in which you say and do it, or whether you're going to keep your mouth closed and say nothing, or whether you're going to hang fire and do nothing, those are actively your choice. And in those choices, what you're doing is creating a set of consequences. Now, is the likelihood that you'll get things right every time? No. But the more you're aware of this, the more you're mindful of this, the more likely you are to make empowered choices. And sometimes those choices are about not biting back when somebody says something which triggers in you a sense of being inadequate or being unworthy. And just allowing that to land not within you, but actually outside, so you can examine it and say, is there truth in this? Because if there is, maybe I need to do something about it. Or is it them being either inappropriate or not very, being very clumsy about them trying to say something? Or is there a purpose in what they're saying, but I'm not getting it? Because if you interpret everything negatively, your life's going to be pretty miserable. And for the most part, certainly my experience is that for the most part, people are not trying to deliberately upset you and do something that hurts. They're too busy doing their own stuff. Now, there's loads and loads of stuff on the website that you can tap into. That's genuinely-you.com. If you want to work on your relationship with you and you'd like a sequential program to do that, you'll find one within the Thrive Together Tribe membership, and you can try that out for $1. So you haven't got to, you're not likely to lose anything if you don't like it at the end of the month. Well, you just cancel the membership. But within it, what it has is not just the exercise I've shared with you, but a really structured, sequential way of helping you develop better sense of who you are, more empowering self-belief, an understanding of what drives and motivates you, which will enable you to feel far better about yourself. And the membership is ongoing, but the program is one that's designed week by week. There's a different theme. There are videos, activities, and a themed journal that are there to support your journey. There's also an interactive Facebook group where you can post questions, you can put comments, and people can help one another. And the reason it costs $1 is in order to set off the mechanism which releases the videos and all of those things. There's no way to do it unless there's a payment. And so $1 was the cheapest way that I could do it. So I would be really grateful for your help. Remember that my mission is to positively impact on 1 million people within 5 years. And to do that, I really need your help. Please share this video, share the posts that I send out, invite people to join us in the Genuinely You group. If you'd like to nominate anybody, you can do it through the comment box. You can actually go to the group Genuinely You with Gina Gardiner, and you can apply to be part of that group. Help me help people be much more confident about who they are, to have a greater sense of self-worth, and in doing so, then be better able to help other people. So a huge thank you for joining me. I hope that some of that's been helpful. David, that's given you a step. If you're interested in the posters, let me know, and I'll make sure that I get some of those to you. But ultimately, remember, from the moment you are born till the moment you die, certainly the only life we're certain of is this one. If you believe in multiple lives, it's even more important because you're going to carry you through multiple lives. But certainly we know we have this life. It makes sense to have a great relationship with you. And in doing so, you will enhance the relationships you have with everybody. So thanks again, and I hope you'll join me on my challenge day 6. One of the things I'm experimenting with is different times of day. And if you have a particular time of day which works better for you, put it in the comment box or send me a message, because what I'm trying to do over the 30 days is to determine best time of day and whether to do these every day or whether to do them a certain number of days a week. So thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you in day 6 of my challenge. Thanks very much. Take care. Have a good day tomorrow. Bye now.